Why play Ezreal Bot Lane? Well, he has great consistent damage. He's a pretty safe laner, his mid-game is incredible, and he's incredibly fun to play and master. However, he is skill shot reliant, meaning he can struggle against high mobility, and he can't cut through tanks as well as other bot laners. Ezreal's passive is after he lands an ability, he gains a decent amount of attack speed. This passive can stack up to 5 times for a massive amount of additional attack speed. Ezreal's Q is his bread and butter. It's a straight line skill shot which deals damage to the first enemy hit and also applies on-hit effects. In addition, landing this Q reduces all of his cooldowns by 1.5 seconds, including itself. Ezreal's W is a straight line skill shot which sticks to the first enemy champion, structure, or epic monster hit. If Ezreal hits a marked target with an auto attack or ability, the mark detonates, dealing a chunk of damage. In addition, if this was procced by an ability, it restores a good chunk of mana. Ezreal's E teleports himself to a nearby area after a short delay. He then fires a bolt which automatically targets the nearest enemy, dealing damage. This bolt will prioritize any target affected with his W. Ezreal's ultimate is a global skill shot which travels in a straight line and deals damage to all enemies hit. For combos in lane, you're always going to want to be looking for a W into a Q. An aggressive combo is to use E into W and Q and then follow up with an auto attack. This also works well with E into Q and W, then following up with an auto attack again. And your all-in combo is to use ultimate into E, followed by a W and Q before following up with even more auto attacks and Qs. For matchups, Ezreal does pretty well into low mobility enemies which are easier to land skill shots on, and whereas lane is fairly safe, he can still be caught out by some lane bullies, especially ones with higher mobility or methods to avoid his damage. For runes, press the attack to integrate single target damage, and as your auto attacks and Qs both apply it, you can get it incredibly fast. For build orders, start Blade and Pot and pick up an early tier before getting an Essence Reaver, tier 2 boots, and a mana immune. After this, Ezreal can buy so many different mythics and many work very well. At the moment, Duskblade is the go-to, but things like Kraken Slayer, Crown, and Gale Force are all still bought on him and are all viable choices. So mess around with it and see what you like, but after building your mythic, you can finish your build with any of these as needed. For skill orders, start Q, then E, then W, before maxing Q, then E, then W, taking ult whenever you can. For summoner spells, take Flash and Heal. During the laning phase, Ezreal is incredibly versatile, where you can play him aggressively or defensively incredibly efficiently. Regardless of how you play, you have great access to poke. If your opponents ever come out from behind their minion wave, throw a Q at them. It's incredibly free damage if it hits, and if it misses, it's so cheap you've lost almost nothing. And if you're able to combine this with a W and auto attacks, even better. When it comes to trading, if you're able to get 1 or 2 Qs off in amongst your W, E, and auto attack, you will almost always come out ahead. But ultimately, how well you do is going to be very dependent on your skill shots. While farming and looking for trades and poke, you have the choice to play aggressively or defensively. If playing aggressively, look for every chance to auto attack and position yourself aggressively for Qs, leaving yourself easier angles to hit. Knowing if there's any trouble, you can simply E away anyway. Alternatively, against bullies, you can simply sit at max range and just last hit with your auto attacks or even Qs if needed. As always, having E to keep yourself incredibly safe. Entering the mid game, you're looking to take tower and roam mid with your support. This will allow the two of you to siege for map control and easily roam for objectives and skirmishes. Entering late game teamfights, you want to play as the backline hyper carry. Use your ultimate over as many enemies as possible before the fight starts. Often during the fight, you don't have time for the long wind up. After this, keep spamming away with your auto attacks and Qs, using W as often as possible for more damage. From here, you can either use your E to aggressively jump in and assassinate a target, or use it to kite anything coming towards you. With Servalda Squad, you're incredibly difficult to get on top of, so keep yourself safe and keep pumping out tons of damage.